All right, welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time we're looking at something that could have some pretty big consequences for all of us,
Right.
deregulation,
Yeah.
and how some recent political shifts might impact, all of our lives.
Right.
We're talking about like major potential changes to stuff we use every day, like
Yeah.
products we buy, even the environment.
That's right. And this all starts with
Yeah.
this CNN article we're looking at about Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy
Oh, okay.
leading this new
Interesting.
Department of Government Efficiency.
The DOGE.
DOGE.
DOGE, I like it already.
Yeah, it's under President-elect Trump.
Snake, what's the plan with this DOGE?
Well, their goal is to make the government more efficient.
Okay.
And the major part of that is slashing federal regulations.
Okay, so less regulation.
Yeah, and they want to do it quickly.
Like right away.
Yeah, right away. They're looking to leverage some recent Supreme Court rulings to really shake things up.
So they're coming in swinging.
They are.
But let's back up for a second, because we know Musk runs what? X, Tesla, SpaceX. Ramaswamy comes from like the biotech world.
Yeah.
So they definitely have skin in the game when it comes to
Absolutely. Definitely. And the article points out that they've both been very vocal about how regulations can stifle innovation and slow down progress. Musk even specifically complained about regulations holding back Neuralink.
Neuralink, now remind me what Neuralink is.
Neuralink is his company that's developing brain-computer interfaces.
So like helping people with paralysis control devices with their minds and stuff?
Exactly. That's the one.
That's some seriously futuristic stuff.
Yeah, very futuristic. And think about this.
Okay.
If regulations are eased, that technology could become available sooner.
Right.
Which could change the lives of millions of people.
Wow.
Like, it's a really powerful example of how these decisions in Washington can have a really, really tangible impacts on people's lives.
Yeah. I see why you said this could have a ripple effect.
For sure.
So what are these Supreme Court rulings that are kind of giving them this green light?
So there's two key cases.
Okay.
West Virginia versus EPA and Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo.
Okay, so what do those do?
Essentially, they put some limits on the power of federal agencies to create new regulations.
So Musk and Ramaswamy see that and think, okay, time to go on a regulation cutting spree.
That's the idea.
Okay.
But as the article points out, it might not be as straightforward as they think.
Really?
Yeah, it quotes some legal experts.
Okay.
Like James Brohl, Nicholas Bagley, and Richard Pierce Jr., who argue that even with these rulings overturning existing rules, is still a really long and complicated process.
So even the Supreme Court on their side, it's not like they can just snap their fingers and poof, regulations are gone?
Not quite, no.
Okay.
It takes time, paperwork, public comment periods, and of course it's all susceptible to legal challenges.
Interesting. So it sounds like
It
sounds like they're going to need a lot of manpower to pull this off.
They will.
But wait, isn't their whole thing about shrinking the government and cutting federal jobs?
It is.
So how's that going to work?
And that's the irony, right?
Yeah.
To actually get rid of all these regulations, they're going to need the very federal workers
That they want to cut?
that they want to cut.
Oh, talk about a catch-22.
Right.
That's like wanting to clean your house but throwing away all your cleaning supplies?
Exactly. And here's another wrinkle.
Okay.
This isn't Trump's first attempt at deregulation.
No, you're right.
He tried to do a lot of this during his first term.
Yeah, so how'd that go? Was he successful?
Well, the article says that he did manage to slow down the creation of new regulations.
Okay.
But he wasn't very successful at getting rid of the existing ones.
Huh.
So that suggests that DOGE might face a pretty uphill battle.
Okay. So this is definitely a situation worth watching closely, especially since there's another tool in their arsenal, the Congressional Review Act.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah.
So the Congressional Review Act.
Okay, yeah, remind me what that is again.
So think of it as like Congress's undo button for regulations.
Okay.
It lets them overturn certain rules that they don't like. But it only works on very recent ones.
Oh, okay.
Like things that were implemented during Biden's term.
So even if DOGE hits some roadblocks with like the Supreme Court stuff and all that, that Congress could step in and just target specific regulation?
Exactly.
Oh.
And this is where things could get really interesting for you, the listener.
Okay.
Because we're not just talking about like abstract policy anymore.
Right.
We're talking about potential changes to things that affect your everyday life.
Okay, so give me an example.
Okay.
Like, let's say they use this Congressional Review Act.
Sure.
What kind of regulations could be on the chopping block?
So the article mentions a list compiled by Public Citizen.
Okay.
They're a consumer advocacy group.
Uh-huh.
And they identified about 100 rules.
Wow.
That could be vulnerable under the Congressional Review Act.
100? What kind of things are we talking about?
We're talking environmental regulations, worker safety rules, financial regulations.
Yeah.
Like a whole range of things.
Okay, so let's play this out.
Okay.
Let's say somebody listening to this works in a factory.
Sure.
How could rolling back regulations affect them?
It's possible that some worker safety regulations could be weakened or even eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those who support deregulation would argue that this could reduce costs for businesses and make them more competitive.
I can see that side of it.
Right.
But wouldn't that also put workers at greater risk?
Yeah.
I mean, fewer safety regulations could mean more workplace accidents or, exposure to hazardous materials.
That's the other side of the coin, for sure.
Right.
And it highlights that key question we keep coming back to, right?
Right.
The balance between efficiency and protection.
Yeah.
It's a classic dilemma.
Yeah.
And it goes way beyond worker safety.
Right. It's like those ripples we talked about.
Exactly.
What starts as a change in one area can spread out and impact everything else.
Precisely. Think about environmental regulations.
Okay.
Rolling back those rules could mean more pollution.
Right.
Which affects the air we breathe, the water we drink.
Yeah.
That's something that affects everyone, regardless of where you work or what you do.
So this is really starting to hit home for me now.
Yeah.
It's not just like some abstract political debate,
It's not.
This is something that could really impact people's lives.
It could. And it's important to remember that these potential changes are happening against the backdrop of Musk and Ramaswamy's own business interests.
Right. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Musk complaining about regulations slowing down Neuralink, stuff like that.
Exactly.
So how much of this push for deregulation is about making government more efficient? And how much is about benefiting their own companies?
It's a tough question to answer.
It is. And it makes me think about something else.
What's that?
Even if these regulations are rolled back, how much will things actually change?
Right.
Didn't Trump try to do this already?
You're hitting on a crucial point.
Yeah.
While Trump did slow down new regulations during his first term, he wasn't very successful in getting rid of existing ones.
So is this whole DOGE thing just a lot of hype?
Yeah.
Or could things actually be different this time around?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And that's something I want you, the listener, to really consider.
Yeah.
Because the answer could have a significant impact on your life.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We talked about DOGE's mission, the Supreme Court rulings they're leaning on, the Congressional Review Act as another potential tool for deregulation. But the big takeaway for me is how this could all ripple out and affect everyday people.
You got it. And as we move into the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
If DOGE succeeds in its mission, what areas of your life might be most impacted by deregulation?
That's a great question.
It is.
And I think it's one that we all need to be thinking about. Okay, so we've talked about the what and the how of this potential deregulation wave, but what about the so what?
Right.
What does it all mean for like the average person?
That's the key question.
It is.
And to really grasp the potential impact, I think it's helpful to get specific.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So let's say DOGE and Congress go all in on this deregulation push.
Yeah.
What are some like concrete examples of how things could actually change for people?
Well, let's go back to that list from Public Citizen we mentioned.
Yeah.
They identified about 100 regulations that could be on the chopping block.
Right. Everything from environmental protections to worker safety to financial regulations.
Yeah.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is. And the impact will vary depending on the specific regulation.
Of course.
That's being targeted.
Yeah.
But I think we can explore some potential scenarios to illustrate how this could play out.
I'm all ears. Walk me through it.
Okay, so let's imagine they decide to target environmental regulations.
Okay.
Maybe they roll back rules on air pollution from factories.
Okay.
So on the one hand, that could mean lower costs for businesses.
Right.
Potentially even lower prices for consumers.
Because there's an upside.
Yeah, from an economic perspective.
Yeah, exactly. But what about the environmental impact?
That's the trade-off.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Relaxing those regulations could lead to a decrease in air quality.
Yeah.
Particularly in areas near those factories.
Right.
And that obviously could have real health consequences.
Right.
people.
Especially people with like asthma or other breathing problems.
Especially those with respiratory issues, exactly.
So one person's economic gain could be another person's health risk.
It's a sobering thought.
It is. It really is.
And it really highlights just how complex these decisions are.
Yeah.
There are often competing interests at play. And finding the right balance is a challenge.
It's not easy.
No, it's not.
And this is why you keep saying this is all about ripple effects, right?
Yeah.
Changing one thing can create all these cascading consequences.
It really can.
That are really hard to predict.
Exactly. And it's not just the environment.
Right.
Think about worker safety.
Yeah.
If certain safety regulations are rolled back, it could make workplaces more dangerous.
Yeah.
Yes, it might reduce costs for businesses.
Yeah.
But it could also increase the risk of accidents or injuries.
It's like that old saying, you get what you pay for.
Right.
Cutting corners on safety might seem like a good idea in the short term.
Yeah.
But the long-term consequences could be devastating.
Precisely. And then there's the financial sector.
Okay.
Rolling back regulations there could lead to less oversight of banks and financial institutions.
Okay.
Proponents would argue this could boost economic growth and innovation.
But couldn't it also lead to more risky behavior by those institutions and potentially set the stage for another financial crisis like we saw back in 2008?
That's the concern, yes.
Yeah.
And it underscores how important it is to carefully consider the potential risks and benefits of any deregulation effort.
So after all this, I'm honestly left with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Like, what should people be watching for as this story unfolds? What are the key things to pay attention to?
Well, I'd say pay close attention to what DOGE actually does.
Right.
Do they follow through on their promises to cut regulations?
Yeah.
If so, which ones do they target? And what are the real-world consequences of those actions?
Because actions speak louder than words, right?
Exactly.
We need to see how this plays out in practice, not just in theory.
Absolutely.
Okay, so DOGE's actions.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Also keep an eye on Congress and how they use the Congressional Review Act. What regulations do they overturn?
Right.
And how does that impact different industries and individuals?
So DOG's actions, Congress, and the Congressional Review Act.
Yeah.
Got it.
Those are the big things to watch.
Okay.
I think the ultimate question, though, is will this lead to a more efficient and effective government, as DOGE claims?
Yeah.
Or will it create more problems than it solves?
That's a good question.
And that's something we'll all have to watch unfold and judge for ourselves.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
It has.
We started with an article about Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy.
Right.
And we ended up exploring the potential impacts of deregulation on everyone's lives.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
And frankly, a little unsettling.
It has been a little unsettling, yeah.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
The pleasure's all mine.
And to our listeners, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
The future is being shaped right now.
Yeah.
And your voice matters.
100%. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. That's going to do it for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.